Um,
There
okay,
we
there you
go.
go.
We got it. I know there's a better way to do it, Greg. I got to learn Zoom. I don't know Zoom that well. It's all yours.
Okay, great. Can you see the slides? I'm showing a slide now. You should be able to see it full screen.
Yeah, looks good, George.
Okay, great. Okay, so I am George K1IG, and I'm going to talk along with Lucas here about this Minecraft project that our club has been working on for a while now. I usually start this off with a question, which I'll get to in a minute. The agenda tonight, we'll have our introductions first, then we'll talk about what Minecraft is. And then I'll turn it over to Lucas. He'll talk about this modification that we've been working on, and specifically what we can do in the Minecraft game to teach about ham radio. If things are working right, Lucas will give a demonstration of it, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about how this is going to affect you and your club. So I usually start this off uh, after the intro here with a question about what is Minecraft. And when I give this at Hamfests or club meetings like this, I ask for a show of hands, and usually no one raises their hand. Um, and if I went to, say, a Minecraft conference and said, well, how many of you know what ham radio is? I think I'd get the same response as well. But Minecraft is the all-time best-selling video game. It's owned by Microsoft. It's not expensive at all. The price is $30 for the basic version, $40 for the deluxe, but you don't really need the deluxe. The basic version works quite well. They've sold 240 million copies of this game since 2011, and they estimate that there are 140 million active players worldwide. And they define an active player as someone who logs on at least once a month to play the game. But the important thing for us is that almost 2/3 of these players are below the age of 21 years. This is an extremely popular game among teenagers and below. And that's one reason why we're trying to get some ham radio into it as well. So with the question of what is Minecraft, I'm going to go ahead and mute, and I'm going to turn it over to Lucas, who can take over and explain what this game is and what we're doing to it. So Lucas, you're on.
Okay. You're taking the slides, George?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. That's easier. Okay, so yeah, what is Minecraft? So it is a sandbox game. Now, what that means is that instead of it being a linear story that's being told that you're kind of experiencing and interacting with and controlling to a certain point, but the story is still kind of a written set thing, it's more of a simulation. You're in this world where you can do whatever you want and use the controls how you want and that type of thing. Um, and it's open. There's no guardrails. There's no anything. It's kind of like an Earth simulator, but of course very simplified. So they can build houses and worlds. They can try and survive. They can create underworld or underground worlds and stuff, or they can try and just make a replica of the whatever you name it. People have done it. But you can really do whatever you want. You can do anything. And you can play it from more of a challenge standpoint, which is more like you're surviving and you're fighting against these creatures, and you're probably doing the bare minimum to start. Or you can set it into something like creative mode, where you have no limitations and there's no health that you have to keep track of. There's no enemy like monsters or anything. You're just building whatever you want with unlimited supplies. So yeah, you really can build anything from these types of small dirt houses you see here, all the way up to immense replications of or recreations of ancient temples and world monuments like this one here. Each one of those little blocks that you see, those little pixels, is actually the size of half of a player. So if that player was standing, they'd be a little speck on that staircase. It's basically to scale, which is just immense the work that's put into that. But they do it. It's that's what makes the game so popular. You can even go to the more technical level and do something like make an actual functioning computer. This guy here, I forget his name, but he actually created a functioning computer, and he actually uses these the Minecraft's like blocks, which you can use to kind of create if gates type of thing, like yes and no kind of. It's basically a transistor, And just using that basic building block, he created a example of something he was actually designing to make sure it worked in the game before he made it in real life, which is just kind of crazy to think about it, that he did it that way. So this very open game that obviously takes a lot of creativity and imagination. It's being used a lot in education. It's being used. It's a fairly healthy game. There's still the issue of staring at a screen, but I think we are all doing that anyways. Even if we're not playing a game, we're often staring at screens at home, whether it's a TV or our phone or some article that we're reading. So that's still an issue, but it's not the same type of thing where it's designed from the ground up to be addictive, and possibly violent, possibly having things like, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the terminology of loot crates, but where it's basically gambling. Sometimes even using real money to get things in the game. So it's very attractive because there's no major downsides, but then it also encourages creativity, encourages problem solving, and encourages working together because it's fully multiplayer as well. So it's a very kind of beneficial thing for them, these education organizations in these schools, to take and adapt it and create their own thing with it. There's actually an education edition of Minecraft that's toned down a little bit. A few things are more restrictive or taken out to make things more simple, but it's still the same game. Which, speaking of which, one of the ways they'll also do that sometimes is by adding in what's called a mod. These modifications, so that's what mod is short for, take this base game, which is fairly simple, and add something to it. If you think about it from a perspective of, as you grow up, you kind of outgrow something. In the same way, people will get bored with Minecraft. They'll get bored with doing the same things. I think it takes longer than most games because there's so much you can do, but they'll often turn to then add something else into it. There's everything from like nuclear physics to, you can see on here, zombie apocalypses, and the one there over in the corner is the create mod at the bottom, and that adds a rotational force. So it's not simple stuff. It's designed actually to add a challenge, add something for them to create from the ground up, and they're making it themselves. And it's as those of us who tinker with the engineering side of ham radio know, it's very satisfying when you get something to work, and that's exactly what this game does tap into. But instead of it being a mental reward for killing someone or accomplishing something basic, which I think those games had their place, and I have nothing against them, you're actually being rewarded mentally for really solving a problem and actually building something that does exist in this digital space. So these mods add to that. These mods go on top of that. It changes the original code of the game and introduces, whether it be a new character or an item that they can use, or just game mechanics in general. Maybe gravity is different or whatever. And there's over 100,000 different mods written largely by players. They're all pretty much free, and they're written by the community. They're not written by Mojang themselves, who are the developers of Minecraft. They're written by the community. And you can download them and add them to your game. There's tons and tons of different options. But with all those mods, there was nothing that was oriented towards ham radio. There's nothing that was like, the thing that we love, that the technology of radio and communication. And what's funny about that is there actually is a need for it, because in the game there's a text chat at the bottom. You can type in some text, and everyone that's connected to this world, this kind of server where people play together, can see it. But in a game that's so focused on realism and survival and building things from the ground up, it seems kind of weird to be walking through, this kind of early pioneer kind of esque world and then have instant communication with everyone. So there's a need for more realistic communications, and it was tried before with something like a cell phone mod that added cell phones in the game. But again, it's kind of this pioneer age. You're building stuff yourself. You're in the middle of the woods building a log cabin, and you pull out a cell phone, and it doesn't quite click. It didn't make sense. People didn't use it because it wasn't realistic. So that's the need in Minecraft that ham radio fills. It fills that need for communication. That's also an additional challenge and something for them to explore and learn, which is why they turned to Minecraft in the first place. And it fulfills this need. Now, we also know that it can fulfill a need for ham radio because we're trying to get more people into the hobby. We're trying to get more young people aware of it. I still remember, like, when I first got into ham radio, none of my friends even had heard the term ham radio. And those few of them who had, it's because they were watching the show Last Man Standing and they saw some guy in his basement rolling a dial around talking with people. And that's not all of it. That's not showing what it really is. Because they look at their phone, they look at the fact that they can call someone, it's the same thing. They don't understand the behind the scenes. What this does is it really puts it in their hands. It really the whole goal of the mod is exposure more so than anything else. It's just, this is what ham radio is in a basic scale. It exists. Why don't you learn more about it? So when we went to the ARRL of this, well, the way it originally happened is we proposed a grant. I proposed a grant to the ARRL with the help of part of Westford, a club. And it was actually approved in January of last year, $22,000, which was around what we were asking, but definitely a good chunk of change. And it was really what we needed to get it going, because the ARRL saw that this could be something that would get ham radio in front of the eyes of these young people. And it's funny because I always say, like, this wasn't some crazy project where I was like, you know what, ham radio needs this, I'm going to do this. It was like, you know, that'd be cool. I've got a bunch of school assignments to do. I'd like to procrastinate. I'll work on this. It was just procrastination, but you know, I went with it, and it really did seem to come together into something that I thought was really cool. And as a past Minecrafter, still sometimes a Minecrafter, I knew it was possible in the world of modding. And as a ham, I was able to kind of bridge these two worlds together. I'm not a developer, so we had to like kind of hire people. But yeah, so the mod itself has a few objectives. The first one is to create a fun, realistic, and complete kind of simulation for homeschool. It's not in full depth, you know, it's very simplified, but it's still complete from the ground up. Of that, they're starting with these elements of a radio and a cable, wire, that type of thing, and they're building an antenna. They're considering what band they're using. They're considering how far that band's going to reach. It does actually have simulated skip and stuff. So we're teaching them these communication concepts at a beginner and intermediate level. We're giving them the basics to it, like what a radio is and why you want it, and also kind of the different theory of radio and antenna and propagation. And there's even randomized solar weather events that can cause, you know, better conditions or worse conditions, or it can be a complete blackout. And there's a system that can forecast what that's going to be, so they can kind of plan on it. And it does also encourage some rules and operating practices. Some of them are required, but most of them aren't, because Minecraft is that kind of place where players will build this world and simulate things. They'll make governments and rules and towns. So we kind of expect them to create their own sort of FCC, if you will, and play the guy in the van chasing down someone who's using it improperly. You know, it's up to the players and how they want to do that. And then, of course, we're taking all of that, we're showing them what this is, and if they're interested, they're probably playing with it, and we show them the next steps to take this into the real world, the ARRL, VOACAP, QRZ, and to help them find a club that they can actually plug in. And we really want to encourage them to actually get their license, because, and that's kind of where this next step is, where the reason why I think a lot of people don't get their license is because there's this big barrier of taking that first step, because it's such a big world, and a lot of these kids are either still in school or just got done with school. And the idea of doing more learning on something that they don't fully understand yet is kind of daunting. So this presents it to them in a fun way. So we really are trying to lower the barrier. We're giving a fun and effective way to learn the hobby with no like intimidation. You know, the worst they can do in real life is break their radio or worse, the law. Or the worst they can do in the game is, you know, break a block that they just placed, or whatever. You know, it's not nearly the same level of intimidation. So they can play around and they can learn, and they can play around with it without having to first take the test. Because I think there is a barrier, especially after COVID, when there's so much less interaction and so much less kind of hands-on opportunities for people. It's not great for them to have to go through this whole test process in order to kind of really get their hands on it and see what it is, because it's not something we can explain if we're realistic with ourselves in a quick 5-minute conversation. We can explain what it is to us, but ham radio is so individual. There's so many hobbies within the hobby that I think this is a great way to introduce kind of the core concepts of what it is and let them play with it and go where they want to, and then take that to the real world where they already have a basic understanding of antenna lengths and bandwidth and frequency and, you know, SWR, that type of thing, where they can take that and they can have an edge up. We can lower that barrier of entry. So we're doing that with a bunch of different features. We have, again, we're keeping it very basic. The way that I simplified it for the radios themselves is that there's a radio for every band, instead of there being like an ICOM and a Yace or whatever. And this is also to encourage them to unlock all the different radios and have like a continued, you know, this is what I'm doing next, is that there's a 20-meter radio, there's a 40-meter radio, 80, VHF, and all that stuff. So it kind of simplifies stuff. And there's also for the VHF stuff, there's also a repeater and a handheld. We do have, excuse me, like I said, those propagation algorithms. We've got coax, we've got ballons, and we make it so, again, this is simplifying it, it doesn't work if it's the wrong ballon. So that way we're just kind of nailing into them these core, this goes with this goes with this, so that way it's easier for them when they get started. We're gonna have direction finding for those kind of self-made FCC government things, and there's going to be a guide in the game as well. We've got a lot of the stuff written out, but it hasn't been put into this first beta that's coming out in the coming weeks. But we're actually calling it the ARL handbook because, again, we're trying to encourage them to take the next step into the real life counterpart. There is Morse code, and we're working on getting APRS put in as well, so that it's not real APRS, it's not a one-to-one direct conversion, but it has that kind of those basic principles of repeating the signal out and showing location and allowing you to send messages. And in the game itself, we actually let them send certain things like books or files or a map, so they can send that over radio. And of course, there is the option for call signs. And again, we're leaving this up to the actual owners of every individual kind of world that players can join, because you can choose from a large variety of them, and they're self-hosted. So we let the owners kind of decide how they want to give out call signs and stuff, and how many of these settings they even want, or how hard they want it to be to get started, because a lot of this is configurable. We're trying to leave it as open as possible. So when we were first creating this, we started off with a Discord server. I'm not sure how many of y'all are familiar with what Discord is, but Discord is kind of a chat program. It's kind of like Slack or Teams, or even, I guess, Groups.io, which I think a lot of us are familiar with. But it's in more of originally gaming focused kind of style, but it's now kind of taken off with many companies and everything using it. And we started with that because it was already where a lot of these gamers and developers were, so we could get live feedback. There's also some ham communities on there too. Like for those of you who are familiar with the Ham Radio Crash Course YouTube channel, they have a Discord server with a large number of young adults and hams that are interested in the hobby. So we're kind of combining these two worlds right there as we got started. We hired a designer and a developer. We kept the developers and the designers separate because those are kind of different wheelhouses of expertise. So for the models themselves and the blocks and the kind of artwork behind it, we had a person, and we've actually gone through a few different designers as we've kind of grown in the project, and growing pains of people going to school and all that. And then a developer, and our lead developer has stayed the same throughout the whole process. We've been doing payments through PayPal, which again, I think a lot of us are familiar with. It's a very simplified system that just let us do taxes automatically, which definitely saved us a lot of headaches. We also had some volunteer developers, which were more there for just quick questions and kind of sanity checks, and helping me make sure that the person that we're paying lots of money is actually doing work. And then, of course, a bunch of testers as well, and those have been very helpful in suggesting new features and helping us fix bugs in our early alphas. So we've been reviewing nearly weekly the development and making sure that things are going well. At this point, it's been slowing down a little bit as we're at that point where we're putting stuff together, and we're kind of waiting on this one thing that like isn't that much, but we're waiting on it. So everything's kind of at a halt, and we've had a few of those, and luckily I think we've gotten all of those nailed out. So we're just kind of putting the last few pieces together. We've been doing play testing and feature tests as we're developing these things and putting them in, so we can kind of do it bit by bit and see what works and what doesn't. And now we're at the stage of this final playtesting period and our first public release of a true beta. That's a full-fledged, you can play this, it will work. It might not be totally polished, and it might not be all the features that we want to add in, like APRS won't be in there out of the box quite yet, but it's a very good thing that you can put in and actually use. I wouldn't call it a proof of concept, because we had a proof of concept quite a while ago that was super exciting, but this is beyond that, where we're at that stage. So yeah, there is that Discord server. This is kind of a screenshot of what it looks like. You can see the Ham Radio MC mod icon over on the left, and then the different channels, which are kind of chat rooms that are kind of directed towards different things. And I recommend joining it if you have Discord, or even if you don't. The Radiocraft website, which we'll have a link to at the end, does have that ready to go. So yeah, we can do a quick demo here. I'm going to show you from kind of the ground up as much as I can. Let's see here. Okay. So George, I will need permission to be able to share, I believe. You'll have to give me permission to do that, or enable that.
Yeah, they'll have to give you the permission there.
Yeah,
I believe-
George, actually, because we made you host, go if you look in the top corner of Lucas's video, you'll see a little ellipsis you can click and make him host
Okay.
right in the upper right of his
Okay,
screen.
it's done.
Okay,
Perfect.
there you go, Lucas.
All right. Let me just configure my stuff here so that that works properly. Okay. All right. So now y'all can see that, and don't mind that. That's a video I'm working on. Okay, so I won't go too much into technicalities of how all this is working and everything, but we're launching the game from this launcher tool that kind of makes things simpler. And we have the RadioCraft mod. I'm going to uncheck the different mod here as well. And just a quick note here, you'll see this thing called Simple Voice Chat. Just a fun little tidbit about this project is that one of the hardest things to figure out for us was going to be how to get the audio, like actual true audio streamed to each player, because the base game of Minecraft did not have that built in. But luckily, someone else already had a kind of a simple voice chat. They call it the Simple Voice Chat mod, where as you walk up to someone and you're close to them, there's kind of this proximity-based chat. If you're close, you can hear them, just like in real life. So they actually had an open API, and they were super cooperative and helped us kind of figure out how to interface with that. And that made things a lot easier, which really took one of the hardest steps out of our hands and made it good to go. Oops, I have not logged into this for a while, so forgive me as I do that quickly. Don't worry, I won't share my password on screen.
Lucas, this
Yes.
is AB2IX. Could you slow down a tiny bit? You got some people that are on are a little bit older than you.
Sure.
If you'd be
Yeah,
so
I
kind as
apologize.
to
I
do
tend
that.
I tend to talk a bit fast when I'm working on something or excited. I'll try and keep that in mind. Thank you.
No problem. But if you could slow down a little bit, appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure. All right. Stay signed in. Yes. Yeah, I made sure I had the files ready to go, but I did not make sure I had the account ready to go. So, all right. Now we should be able to launch this. So as it's launching, this game runs off of Java, which is the developers we used was a Java developer. So the way that these mods work is it literally builds the game from the ground up, kind of like you're building source code. That's how it launches in general, even when you're running it normally. So what these mods do is it literally kind of just inject themselves into the code as it's being brought up from the ground up. It's a very kind of cool way that they designed it so that you could do things like this and create these mods. And it's going to launch up here. Don't worry about any of these messages or the technical side of this. This is just it fixing itself and doing things. Any moment now. And here we go. So as we get into this world, what you'll see is that I'll just have, I'm going to give a very basic kind of sign or a demo of what it looks like when you're going in survival. And then we'll switch over into an open kind of format. So let's just create this new world. So each world is a file. It's like kind of think of it as like a save game or a save state. And it starts from the ground up with what's called a seed, a random kind of number. And each instance of Minecraft is completely unique. It's built before your eyes as you walk into the world. Again, that's what makes it so interesting for everyone, is that no one will have the same experience. But of course, you can always come back to this world that you've created, and it will still be there just like it was. And as you keep on walking into new areas, it'll keep on generating new stuff. So you can see I have my health bar down at the bottom there. I've got this world around me. I've got nothing at all in my on myself, in myself, whatever. That didn't sound. But so if I was playing
Okay,
survival Minecraft, there would be.
Look,
Yeah, don't worry,
Lucas,
George. I'm not going too far into this.
yeah,
If that's what you're worried about.
all we're seeing is the Mojang screen.
Mojang screen, really? Okay, that's
Looks like
long
it's
gone, so I'm
frozen.
not sure why.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, now we're seeing it.
It's
now we
working
see
like
it.
that. Okay, I'm just gonna put this in full screen the old-fashioned way, just for now. Okay, so health bar at the bottom. This is survival. I start with nothing. I can, break stuff and I can get wood here, and I'd keep on going from there. We're not going to worry too much about that, but just so you understand that when a player starts out in kind of the survival style of the game, they have nothing, and they're building with the resources around them and figuring out how to do things from nothing. Let's see. Sorry, of course, because I have it in this half screen mode. I can't see the whole screen, but if I just switch over to, there we go. So now I'm in the creative mode, which is just another way you can launch the game. And this has access to all the blocks. I don't have to find it myself. I don't have a health bar anymore. So for the sake of this demonstration, we're going to show how it's done with creative. But for the most part, I think players will be doing this in survival where they're building it from the ground up. But in this demonstration, we don't have the time for that because that would take days. I'm not going to put you guys through that. But if I just search radio, we can see here is a 20-meter HF radio. We've got a few right here. We've got the QRP ones as well. We do have QRP radios that use less power and are kind of a fun design. I'll just take them all out and kind of show them to you guys quickly so you can see the hard work our designers put into this. So there's the QRP radio. Here's a old HF radio. That is 80 meters. This one's our 20-meter one. Let me grab the 40. Oops. My 4 key is not working. Very interesting. Never had that happen before. Where's the 40-meter one? Here's the 40-meter one. And VHF, base station, receiver. I can't see the bottom of my screen. Nope, that's the QRP one. Here's the 40-meter, and here's the base station. Hello? That shouldn't be placing like that. That's a bug. I think we already got that one fixed in the future release here, but we've been waiting on a couple of icons that are not in the game, so we haven't done those yet. But this is just a demonstration of what the models themselves look like. So you can see they're very simplified, but they look like radios. And we'll get rid of all these except for this one here. When you right-click on it, it brings you into the actual kind of user interface, which has more icons that you recognize. Now, nothing will happen if I click this now because there's no power. That's right, you have to come up with your own source of power. So let me grab here a large battery. Again, they'd have to be building this from the ground up where they'd take components like wood and leather and stuff and craft it with a recipe. They have to put it together, and I won't show you how all that works because it's a bit more of an advanced part. It's not really related to this section, but there is work involved in kind of creativity. Then we'll grab some wire. Antenna wire, coaxial wire. So we're going to go ahead and connect this to the back of the radio. But just because we have a battery doesn't mean we have power. We still have to power the battery itself and charge it up. So in this case, we're going to use a solar panel. That's not what I'm holding. There it is. And we'll hook these up. Now, those of you out there will know, if I was to connect this wire right here, in real life, what's the issue? The issue is there's no charge controller. And that, although it sometimes technically does sort of work, is a bit of a no-no because you can't control the voltage. So here is a charge controller. So you can see we're creating just good practices and understanding of how all this works in the player. We're helping them learn what they need to be doing here. So we're going to turn on the charge controller. We should see, yep, the battery's charging up to 1% now. And I'm actually going to put the wire here into the radio. There's some little design things like how this kind of goes into the side of the block a bit too high. Those are those final touches that we plan on making so it looks better and is a bit more fluent once we have it all working perfectly. We're going to take our coax wire and we're going to put it up. There's a horse here. Hello, sir. You're kind of in the way. Can you move? He says nay. Okay. we're gonna just kind of build up here. I'm gonna jump up and I'm gonna place. We're gonna make a dipole. That's what we'll do, because you can create different types of antennas. You can create end feds. You can create a vertical. We're gonna do a dipole, the very simple classic antenna. So I'm gonna search a balun, and who knows which type of balun we're using for this? That is right, a 1-to-1 balun for a dipole. So let's bring up the coax to here. There we go. And we have to do some basic math here, where if we're doing a half-wave dipole, 20 meters, that would be 10 meters. And for Minecraft, each block is actually supposed to be 1 meter. So that's pretty perfect. We can just do 5 blocks in each direction. We've got our antenna wire, but we have to connect it to something. So we're going to go, let's see here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks out. We're going to build up to the same height and place an antenna connector. Antenna wire. There we go. And it says no valid antenna found because this is not a valid antenna as of right now. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Antenna connector, antenna wire. There we go. And it gives it a unique ID, which in the finished game will not be exposed to the player, but it's really useful for our debugging process right now. And as far as I can tell, yep, I think everything is ready for us to go. So, if we click it, and we choose single sideband, there you go. I hope the sound is coming through. But you can hear that classic static of...
We're not hearing the sound on this end.
No sounds coming through?
Yeah. We're hearing
Yeah, when
just
you,
fine, but not the computer.
when you share screen, there's a little button on the left-hand side that says share audio. So you might have to stop share and reshare, clicking that
Gotcha.
button.
Sure. Let me do that here. You get to see my wonderful face here again. We'll actually share the Minecraft screen directly. Yeah, there it is. Okay. There we go. Now you can probably hear that.
Yeah, we hear it now.
That classic sound. And there is also Morse code. And we have it set so that the sound probably won't come through on this end starting with the next release, because it's a bit distracting because there's a bit of delay there, which unfortunately is a limitation of Minecraft itself because of how it works with modifications. We can't have too low latency, but it's still Morse code and it still does transmit with that same propagation theory. Let's turn this off for a second so we're not driving ourselves crazy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build another version of this right here, but I'm going to do it the hacky way. Again, I got some, because I'm doing this world just by myself and there's I'm just doing it for demonstration processes. I'm just going to do something that you can ignore where you guys are at, but I wish I could see the bottom of my screen here. Clone. This is basically just going to let me copy this whole section over without having to worry about building it all again. I'm just telling it the X and Y coordinates of where we're copying from, and we're just going to put that right. Yes.
Just so you're aware, we got about 5 minutes left of the meeting, so.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm just about done
Thank you.
here, so that works fine.
All right.
Antenna wire. I'm just going to try and show you guys some sound here. There we go. All right. So we'll turn on this guy. 1407 megahertz. And this one, 1407 megahertz. I don't know if my microphone is configured properly. I can think of it, but oh, well, I have to be in.
You know, Lucas, we're not seeing the radio. We're just seeing an error message.
Oh, I apologize. I put it into full screen again.
There you go.
There we go. So it is copied over I don't know why it's not copying. It's not seeing it when it's in full screen. That's odd. Check 1, 2. There you go. You can hear myself over to the left there. And because we're right next to each other, that's the ground wave working properly. But if I was, say, another, certain amount of blocks that way, you stop hearing me because it's now into the skip area, but it's too close. And as I go further on, you'd hear me again. And again, daytime, nighttime all has effects on whether it's working properly and all this stuff. So this is just a very basic demo with a dipole antenna. But there's other antennas you can make, and there's lots of options you have on how you make all of this. So that's pretty much it. That's the heart and soul of the mod, and there's other things that players can do with it. They can add the stuff to turn it into an APRS radio or whatever, but that's pretty much it. So I'll leave the demo here and send it back over to George.
Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing and then go up to my picture and enable me as the host.
Yes. Okay, let's see here. I see the little dots and make host. There you go, George. You should be good to go with control.
Okay, yeah, I got it here. Okay, so we had the demo. I know it did go pretty fast, but we had a lot to show. The remaining tasks were we need to polish this user interface. Lucas showed you there were a couple of bugs left. We're building the website and the wiki, and then we'll have the public release. And we hope that's going to be in the next couple of weeks now. Then for sustainment, we've got enough money left over in the account to take care of bug fixes and upgrades and to get user inputs. ARL Foundation originally had this just for 1 year, but now they've extended it an extra year. So we'll be able to take care of all these things as well. Mm-hmm. So a question comes up, Lucas mentioned, how come this wasn't already done? If this is such a killer app, we think, for the game. As he said, the in-game voice communications were tried, but they didn't work because what they simulated were cell phones. And you wonder, well, why would they do that? And the answer is because cell phones are all they know. These kids who play this game have never heard of ham radio. Most of them haven't even heard of radio at all. The only communications they know are cell phones. So all they put in there were text chats, which was kind of clunky and really didn't work right. We're trying to broaden this out and teach them that there's more to their life than just a cell phone, and they can do a lot more with it. So now we come to the opportunity for you. We've got, as we said, 140 million active players, and almost 2/3 of them are under the age of 21. And every single one of them is tech savvy and computer literate and actually pretty smart. And they're builders and creators, as you saw, the stuff that Lucas was doing. So we think if we can just touch maybe just half of 1% of the Minecraft users, those active users, and just introduce them to ham radio, that's 700,000 potential amateur radio operators. And in our mind, it's like it's 1914 all over again, and we're introducing an entire generation of people to radio, something that they've never heard of. So now the challenge is to you, for the clubs. Can you be ready for this? We could have a lot of kids now in the next few months, in both at home and in school, getting interested in radio and looking for help. And we're going to be steering them to the clubs. We're going to have these links in the wiki that we're building so they can have club locators. So what are you going to do if 10, 20, or 30 kids and their teachers showed up at your meeting? So you need to prepare for the first impression, which is you don't have to be Minecraft experts, but you just have to be aware that these kids may show up and will have questions about radio. So you may want to liaison at some schools if they come calling on you to get with them and tell them what you might be able to do for them, and be ready for the release of this mod. So we've got a website set up. Lucas is working on another one. If you go to our club website, wb1gof.org, we show the current status of Minecraft. There's a Minecraft tab up there on the top that you can click on and go to this page, and shows you what we're doing on it now. And then it describes the game, gives you a lot of links and instructions about how to install it if you want to install it. So with that, you said you were getting ready to close the meeting. Do you have any questions on this?
Any questions in the room? First of all, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Any questions on Zoom? And one more time in the room, in case I missed anybody. Right. Thank you very much. If you can get 20 to 30 young people to show up at our meeting, the only question is, when will we take action, before or after we do the table dance? So look forward to it. I have a son who's a Minecraft junkie, total Minecraft junkie, and I'll be interested to see his reaction to this when it comes out.
Yeah, so at the Ham Fest that I go to, and I ask the question about, does anybody know Minecraft? They all say, well, my grandson or my grandchildren play it. And when I ask the Minecraft people, who knows about ham radio? And they say, well, my granddad does that. So
Yeah.
there's a chance here to get some interaction.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much. We enjoyed that. And it is recorded. We'll be posting it on YouTube and the link up on our website with our presentations. So everyone will have access to it, even those meeting tonight. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate it. With
Excellent.
that,